Hello and welcome to Biker Bushcraft. In this video I'm going to focus on fire. I'm going to show you how I start a fire when I'm camping on the motorcycle. Let's get going, collect some firewood and get a fire going. It's cold out here. I'd like to warm up. Alright, this is what I'm going to start with. The biggest problem that I see when I watch other people start fires is they don't prepare for the fire. They get a little bit of kindling, or maybe they've got a feather stick, or you know, they've got 1 or 2 logs, but you get the fire going, you need your kindling. You need your feather stick, you need your tinder, then you need your firewood. You don't want to get your kindling going, then have to go start collecting and chopping your firewood. That'll cause you a problem. So I have a feather stick here. It's a little bit wet. All the wood out here is pretty wet. It was raining hard for a few days, and it's snowing, and now it's thawed, so there's a lot of moisture. This wood was on the ground, but there's really no standing dead wood here that I can cut down, so this is what I have to work with. This feather stick will get us going. This tinder should take off pretty good, and this kindling, some of it is heartwood and it's dry enough, I think it'll burn pretty well. So now the next step is I need to get some of the snow out of the way in my fire pit, or build a platform for my fire. You'll also notice I took a piece of bark. I'm going to start my fire on the bark, and that'll make life much easier. Then I can set that down in the fire pit, so no matter how wet that is, or even if there's snow still in it, this will allow me to get a good base for my fire and get everything going. Okay, so we're all set. Got my tinder, my kindling, everything cut up, and I'm set up with my hand drill. I'm ready to do this. Now I'm sure a lot of you right now are saying, you'll never start a fire with that. It's too wet. It's the wrong kind of wood. Well, you're not exactly right. It doesn't matter what kind of wood you use for your hand drill, and it's really not wet. This is heartwood, and it's certainly dry enough. But I'm going to show you how we're going to start a fire with this, and how we're going to do it quickly and easy. Take our axe. And we're going to make this into kindling. I'm sure some of you are saying, what the heck are you doing? Well, here's the deal. This isn't Survival 101. This is biker bushcraft. We're going to take whatever we need to make ourselves comfortable. And a hand drill, get good with it, practice with it, learn to use it. Because if you were out there in the middle of nowhere and you had nothing, that's a great way to start a fire. It's a great skill to have. But if you have the choice, even if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you have a lighter, use your lighter. Use a Bic, Zippo, whatever you have. Or use a fire steel. Great way to do it. Fire steel, you've seen me start fires in my other videos using my fire steel. Works great. The fact is, I've been riding in the snow and ice. I'm cold. So it's important that I get a fire going and get warmed up. If the colder I get, the less I'm going to be able to do. And if I let myself get too cold, potentially I could get hypothermic, and then I'm in trouble. Then it does become a survival situation, and it's going to take a lot more. It's going to be a lot more difficult for me to do the things I need to do to survive versus being able to simply relax and be comfortable, start a fire, and have some coffee. So, that hand drill, great idea, great skill to have, but it's not what we're going to do today. We're going to build our fire with a lighter. Coming. You can hear all the moisture in this wood. And we're at a pretty high elevation. We're at about 6,500 feet. That impacts it too. That's one thing I don't hear other bushcrafters really talking about in their videos, is the fact that when you start getting to the higher elevations, The air's a little bit thinner. It takes quite a bit more to start a fire. This took some real effort. So it's finally starting to burn. And I've got my water on here going for my coffee. Priorities, you understand. So I want to get that on early and right on the flames. And I've got a couple of small logs on here, in part for the fire, but also because I've got a couple of sausage I'm going to cook for lunch, and I want to get those positioned so I can throw my grill on there as soon as the water's hot enough. This wood is just so wet. Really having a hard time getting it to catch. This kindling should be gone by now, but it's not. Got my coffee filter full of coffee, waiting for the water. One of the things that really is important to me is keeping the size of my fire under control. You really only need a small fire. I mean, I could fill this fire pit up with wood and have a raging bonfire going, but there's no need for it. To cook, I just need a little bit of flame. In fact, I barely need to get it beyond the kindling to do what I want to do, which is heat some water and then cook a sausage. So I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of every bit of heat I can from the very beginning of this fire to start heating the water until I'm done cooking the sausage, and not use more wood and not make more fire than is necessary. There are a lot of good reasons to keep your fire small. And as I've mentioned before, fire's a tool. So that tool has a few specific jobs. One, keep you warm. Like I said at the beginning of this fire, it's cold out here. I want to get a fire going and get warmed up. But my fires are small. They're sufficient to provide me with some heat. They're sufficient to cook my food and heat my water for my coffee. But they aren't big, they aren't using a lot of firewood. So I don't have to work as hard to collect fuel to keep my fire going. I don't have to drag as much wood in, cut as much wood up. And I also don't have to use as much of the resource of the wood that we have around here in order to keep my fire going and use my fire as a tool. I also, keeping a small fire, don't have to worry as much about other things catching on fire around me. Now, with all the snow on the ground, all the moisture that we've had, it's not a real concern right now. Not that it couldn't happen, but I'm always fire safety conscious. And in the area that I live, we frequently have very, very dry summers, and our fire danger is high. So embers flying off into the bush is a really bad thing. So keeping the fire small helps prevent that and helps eliminate any chance of the fire spreading, getting out of control. If I had a large bonfire, the chances of embers popping off or of pieces of wood falling out of the fire pit and potentially spreading the fire are very much higher than they are with this small fire. Another reason for keeping the fire small, as I've mentioned in my previous video, is stealth. You don't want to be obvious. More so, you don't want to be a nuisance to people who might be around where you're camping, people who own property, people who drive by. You don't want to be obvious. So a small fire that you're using for heat, for cooking, is not going to draw a lot of attention. If you've got a large fire going, people are going to pay attention, and especially if you're in an area of high fire danger, people are going to be concerned. If people are concerned, they talk to other people, And ultimately, that can reduce the number of places that you can go and enjoy the outdoors, because these places are going to have more restricted access if the people that own property around them are complaining about people camping there. Well, it looks like get a little bit of steam out of the water here. I think maybe just hot enough. Oh yeah, that's going to work just fine. So, as you all know, I'm very picky about my coffee. So, not quite boiling, just hot enough that it's got a good steam to it. I wet the grounds. Let them soak in, and then give it a good pour through. And a smart thing when you're just making a cup of coffee and you're not boiling anything else, which incidentally I didn't do this time but should have, is if you put the water in the cup and then pour the cup of water into the pot, you won't have more water than you need, or for that matter, too little. I guessed. We'll see how I did. Well, I've done this once or twice, but it doesn't get much more accurate than that. There's almost nothing left in the pot. And let's see how our coffee tastes. Absolutely perfect. I'm going to have a little bit of linguiça. I originally brought the sausage along for another dish I was going to cook, but it took me too long to get here, too long to start the fire, and I honestly didn't expect it to be snow on the ground when I planned to come up here, so I'm just not feeling that ambitious. So I'll do this. And a little bit more flame in there than I'd like, but it's all right. I'll just keep moving the sausage around. Let's give that a try. Plenty of good heat over that fire. Now that the flames are dying down and it's turning into coals, and that's really what you want. You want coals. You really don't want flame. That's going to make for a fine lunch. Oh yeah, that's really good. Had I known this was going to be the plan, I would have brought mustard. That's the only thing that's lacking, but you know what? No complaints. This is fantastic. Coffee, sausage, fire. Not another human being within earshot. Snow on the ground, which is actually nice in this amount. I know some of you were saying that's not snow. All right, well, I don't live in the areas of 3-foot winters anymore, or 6-foot winters. But this is just about right. I can still ride in this. So it's comfortable to camp in. I can get in and out of the campsites. It's not uncomfortable. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video about campfires. I sure have. Some good food, good coffee, good fire, and good company. I really appreciate you joining me and watching my videos. And if you liked it, please do hit the thumbs up, hit the red subscribe button. And I appreciate you taking the time to have lunch with me. We'll see you on the next video.
Every cowboy, he always misses when he's aiming at the target in his head. And every broken man finds his idle hands grasping at tomorrow's promised land. And I've been thinking about running, and I'll get out on the town just for myself. And that's when I saw her, and she looked right through me. And when I said I do that day, I really do. 'Cause every cowboy, he always misses his shot when he's aiming at the target in his head. And every broken man finds his idle hands grasping at tomorrow's promised land. And I've been thinking